Meet Dave of Delusions of Grandeur, actor, producer, and director of films like Tales of the Forgotten. He has come to assemble a team of freaks, geeks, and even worse, film nerds, to discuss films ranging from mainstream to downright crazy. There is Tammy, car enthusiast, and Dave's fiance, Dustin, reptile expert and overall horror collector, Jake, environmentalist and fine art film critic, and finally Brandon, a therapist with a love of film that can only be seen as insanity. Together under Dave's leadership, they are inside movies galore. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show.
To heal.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Inside Movies Galore. I am one of your hosts, but we have now started a new month, but just to not fake you out, we're continuing with the Shrek franchise, because this is technically in the franchise a little bit. It's done the year, or at least it was filmed the year after the last Shrek movie, if I remember correctly. But Tammy, this is a stage to film musical, correct?
I believe so.
And it's called Shrek the Musical. It's directed by Michael John Warren. And it stars David Lindsay Abair. No, those are writers. These are the writers behind it. David Lindsay Abair, William Steig, and Ted Elliott. But it stars Brian D'Arcy James, the lovely Miss Sutton Foster, Christopher Sieber as Lord Farquaad, and let's see, John Tartaglia as Pinocchio. We got Daniel Breaker as Donkey, and so on and so forth. And I believe that this is our first stage musical to film thing that we're actually talking about. So opens it up to a little bit a broader territory for us. Let me see what IMDb says about this stage musical. Though it's a Broadway musical, and almost kind of a reimagining, so to speak. So make room for ogre-sized family fun as the greatest fairy tale never told comes to life in a whole new way in this breathtaking Broadway musical adaptation of the hit movie Shrek. So, going around, Tammy, did you want to bring us into first impressions?
Sure. Well, let's see. I know the first time I saw this was I bought a pack with all the Shrek on it and other things, other movies too. So I had no idea that this even existed, and I believe it was the first time that David watched it too, because it was on there, and it was like, well, what's this? So I know that we both enjoyed it very much, and it's got the humor in it is a little bit different. It stays pretty like true to the actual movie, but there are some extra little parts, and of course, it being a musical, it's definitely got a lot of songs in it and everything, and not all the songs are the same as the ones that were in the movie. But yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad we decided to check it out because like I never heard of it until I bought that box set thing. So, but
Now, before we go into entire uh, first impressions, I just wanted to ask around how many of you have seen musicals on stage?
Like live or recordings or what?
Live, I would say, going to an actual musical stage adaptation of a musical.
Not many, but yes.
Yeah, I've seen 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hope to see the actually this fall when we are going to be on board the newest Caribbean ship. We're hoping to see the Broadway production of
David,
And how
with
many
that,
of us have?
David,
Yeah.
with that what was the name? It's not Frankenstein, but the one that we went and saw.
Oh, we went to see Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, no,
Oh.
that was that considered one?
Yeah, that's a musical. That was
'Cause
the
it was-
musical for it. So
Yeah, it wasn't just a. It wasn't just a play or a performance because they sang and everything in it. So
Good
yeah,
deal.
yeah, we went and saw that, but we've also seen a rendition of West Side Story
Okay.
together.
Yeah.
That was the East End one, and I myself, because I was heavily into music class and stuff like that, went to a ton, and I was part of a few myself. I was part of a production of Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. And I was also a part of an Into the Woods production.
Okay.
One was in high school, one was out of high school. Because I knew a friend whose mother actually had a separate stage company, but then used the St. Francis High School stage to put on her musicals. So.
Yeah, in high school, I was part of a South Pacific production.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've seen a professional, like, I've only been to Broadway once, and I've never been to a show at Broadway. I'd like to, but
Okay.
I saw a professional off-Broadway production here in Richmond years ago. My family went to see Jesus Christ Superstar,
Okay.
where Ted Neely was still with the production, and we actually met him and hung out with him afterwards. It was pretty cool.
Okay.
So yeah, I've seen a couple or been part of a couple, but not a lot.
I've seen Cats the musical on stage.
we saw Wicked, didn't we?
Yes, we saw Wicked.
Yeah, I'd like to see.
We also saw Phantom of the Opera twice.
Yeah.
Right.
But
I really-
myself, I saw Cinderella, the one with, that Brandy was part of, and except I think it was a different girl playing Brandy's spot, and originally Whitney Houston was supposed to be there, but was not. But the Chinese American guy who played the prince was actually part of it. A stage adaptation of it. And then I saw a stage adaptation of the Elton John Tim Reese Aida. That was pretty cool because the first production of the two that played the main characters, Aida was played by Heather Headley, and Radamés was played by the guy who played in Rent. Adam Pascal. And the first night that they put on that production, which was like apparently the weekend before, they'd actually gotten trapped inside the thing that the contraption that they were using for stage, that they were being buried alive in or whatnot, and they were lucky to survive that. So for them to be able to put on another performance the following weekend was cool. And I think I also saw something on The Ugly Duckling. Everything's Ducky, it was originally called.
I remember when I was younger, I saw Pinocchio.
Huh?
Okay.
Stage. My great grandmother took me. And is the Nutcracker considered one?
The Nutcracker on Ice?
No, right, the Nutcracker.
Okay.
I've seen that many a times. Like the last time I saw it was with your mom.
Actually, I still need to take Kim to it the next time the Richmond Ballet is doing that. Though we did actually have, I mean, I saw Les Mis when it toured over here in Richmond.
I saw Les Mis as well when it toured over here. I went down to Chicago for it. I have seen Cats.
But have you seen the movie?
Yes, I have seen the movie. I just have not seen the butthole cut.
I wanted to see Spamalot, but unfortunately I did not get to.
I've only seen one on Broadway musical, and that was Smokey Joe's Cafe, because I did see that on Broadway.
Okay.
And it was a part of our concert choirs thing, and part of that allowed us to get backstage tickets where we got to. I still have the entire cast signed thing because we got to actually sit and give questions and answers with the cast. And of course, I was a part of a production of Annie in high school. So yeah, which was fun. Good. So yeah, we've all been there.
Yep.
Yeah, unless you count opera as a part of it, my Broadways are only like 3 to 4.
I haven't seen any opera.
We saw the one Daniel was in was Madame Butterfly, right?
Yeah.
So we did see that. That was cool.
Yeah, I did see
the Spitfire Drill as a musical on stage.
Okay. All right.
That was interesting.
So, this musical. Has anybody seen this musical on stage?
No, sadly.
I have not.
Sadly, no.
I just thought that this was a good place to ask around to see what musicals people have seen. So
it is becoming a little bit more of a thing to release filmed versions of the official productions.
And I wish that would happen more often.
And I've seen a couple of those, but I kind of wish I knew more about the production of this. I tried to look into it. Like, there's some impressive, like, the transformation stuff. It's like,
oh, yeah.
How do they do that on stage? And I haven't been able to find out about that. But we'll get to that, I'm sure.
We'll have a lot to talk about in production. Including this one.
Well, I do want to say something about Miss Sutton. One of the more recent productions that she's been part of was one that that was going around on Broadway, as she was part of The Music Man recently, with Hugh Jackman, if I remember correctly. And I remember there being rumors about them having a saucy romance at the time or whatnot. But in any case,
would you expect anything else with him?
Well, I don't know. That's too much to go into right now. But again, let us start to go around our first impressions. Just wanted to get some of those experiences out of the way. Tammy,
Okay.
have you
I
finished your
already did
first
mine.
impressions?
I already just did mine.
Okay,
Um,
alrighty.
So let's go to Jake.
Well, this is definitely my first time seeing this particular production. I was aware of it in like a very vague sense. Like I knew that there was a musical. I didn't really give it much mind, really. And when y'all said we were going to discuss it, I was like, okay, that could be interesting, you know.
Well, we know how you are about discussing music, so
Yeah. I did not really know going into this exactly what to expect. And the handful of images I saw, honestly, I don't know if they were this production or the one that I know Brandon wants to talk about at some point. But they did not inspire confidence, really. So maybe it was that other production.
Probably.
But I will say that there were some elements that took some getting used to. There were some elements that were very different from the movies. There were some elements that were surprisingly spot on. Personally, I think that both Sutton Foster was absolutely perfect as Fiona. And even though the character annoys the crap out of me in both the series and this version, John Turturro had Pinocchio down pat. He had that character perfect. So I thought that they did well with the casting. A couple of them were a little more a different take. Donkey, Farquaad, and Shrek are different takes on the characters.
Mhm.
Not quite as different as it would have been if Chris Farley had in fact played Shrek as they originally planned, but you know. So there was and then you know Tammy's already alluded to the music. They included the Duloc song, but they included it as a prelude to a different one. And then they had sort of I'm a Believer almost as an encore curtain call kind of thing.
Which is what it should be, I guess.
Which is, yeah. But otherwise, it's all original music, and a lot of it was good. I don't think I'll be humming any of these songs on one viewing, but I'll bet if I were to watch this a few times, I'd probably really, really like some of the, like I liked some of the songs. But that's the thing with musicals that like sometimes like I couldn't even tell you how many times I've seen Jesus Christ Superstar. I know those songs forwards and backwards. I've never seen Phantom of the Opera, but we had a cassette in the car growing up, so I have heard those songs so many times. You know, there are some musicals where the music is like ingrained. This is one that I would need to see a few times before I can really get, you know, nothing immediately jumped off. You know what I mean? But
it's on YouTube whenever you want to watch
right,
it. So.
which is it played remarkably well. I was disappointed after what Tammy said about the finding it on your collection. The collection I've been using to watch the other 4 movies I have not dug into the bonus features. I know there's a crap load of bonus features, but it's not listed on the box. I went and checked. So maybe the musical's buried in there, but you'd think they would have said so. So I'm a little disappointed about
Yeah,
that.
it doesn't look like it's on that
Yeah.
later
Yeah.
one that you showed a picture of.
Right.
But it has more short films than
Oh,
that does.
there's like 11 short films on that collection. There's
Yeah.
a lot of them.
There's a reason why I upgraded myself to that one, because it has everything on there practically.
Right. But so at any rate, yeah, so this was a first time viewing. I mostly enjoyed it. I was actually very impressed. Like I went in expecting, like, this is the magic of having a low bar of expectations. You can be much more readily impressed. So I had almost the opposite reaction that I did to Shrek the Third.
I suggest for everyone around to have low expectations of any movie, because that is where we fall prey to having too much looking forward to.
Sometimes you can't help it. Like, there will be movies that you're like, I'm there. You know, there will be movies like that, and there's no way you can fight that. But it's but yeah, it was good. It was well done. And again, as we go along, I'll talk about some specific things. There were a couple things I had gripes with, a couple things maybe could have played better, just like the original films had some jokes that don't play as well now as they did at the time. This had a couple things that probably won't play as well now. But overall, it's good fun. I think it's a little more adult skewing than the movies, but that makes sense because how many kids are really going to go see a stage musical compared to adults? You know, it's good.
Okay, what about you, Brandon?
Well, I've of course never seen this one before, for obvious reasons. Though I can say that, what's the word? I did know of it beforehand. The funny part about it is that I actually, the first time I heard about Shrek the musical was actually the controversy around it. And it wasn't the controversy around Shrek the musical that we watched. It's the controversy around Shrek the musical that's behind us in this particular. And to me, they were kind of inseparable. And that's part of the reason why I think I didn't watch it, because I mixed it up. And I'll admit, I was very impressed by it. I prefer the films, but to me, a lot of these musicals don't play as well for me when they're not live. I don't know why. There's something about watching the musical stage performances. Like I watched, what was it? Not Hamlet. Hamilton. I watched the Hamilton one that Disney had on theirs, and I know I probably would have liked it much better live in person. But a part of these stage shows, the important part of them, is seeing them live, because the effects, though they were impressive, I imagine having them on stage would have made them more. So, but I wanted to just go quickly over this just to give you the basic idea of what happened here. So this particular musical was extremely successful. Not the one behind me. And because of such, they decided we're going to do another run. So a group bought the rights to the musical, cut some of the songs, made some major cuts to the effects, but charged Broadway prices. As yes, this is the legit Shrek the musical. So there were some notable changes where, of course, Shrek had hair, as you see. Shrek's parents were actually puppet heads. Little Fiona was played by a puppet. The baby bear from the Three Bears was also a teddy bear that they held.
This just sounds wrong in all the wrong reasons.
Donkey was just a guy in a donkey hoodie.
Sounds like they had budget concerns.
And this, if you can't, you could probably imagine that people paying Broadway prices were a little bit miffed at this. They might have felt a little ripped off, you might say.
I know I would.
So they ended up actually stopping the show for about a month, adding a few more special effects. Like they went ahead and made Shrek's parents. They actually cast Shrek's parents. They gave Shrek a bald cap and gave Donkey a full fur costume, which is still not as good as the costume in the it's still not as good as the costume in the actual musical that we watched. But still kept the songs that they still cut out the 2 or 3 of the songs. And and Farquaad was they got rid of the Farquaad being short entirely.
Huh.
And
Did they keep the jokes about it?
Actually, for the most part, they just made fun of. They made fun of him being like special needs or something, which also didn't go well.
Yeah, that one does, not to interrupt, it just doesn't sound like it would have been as much fun as the one that we watched.
Well, it might have been fun to watch as a so bad it's good concept. But I wanted to bring this up because it's hard if you're looking up Shrek the Musical, it's hard to look it up without coming across stuff about this particular version of it. And its infamous run, so to speak. Oh, and they did slash the prices of the tickets, which was good. I might have watched this one live stage for $40
the budget in half and
just to see how bad it was,
and put puppets in place of people who should actually be people. Then yes, I'm not going to expect to pay Broadway prices.
Yeah, they were charging as much as $250 a seat.
Damn.
Yeah, and this was back when they were running it, which I think was about 2015 or so. So but with that being said, with this being my first expectation of it, I actually was very impressed with what I saw. And I will leave it at that.
Well, and as Tammy said, the first time I knew that there was a musical out there. I did not know of the controversy, so I'm glad that you were able to bring that to the table. So I went in with a blank mind, not sure what I was going to expect, and I ended up laughing at bits and pieces of it. And I'm sure you'll know the bigger piece that I probably laughed at, but in all concerns, there are some that maybe they could have done better on, but I actually think this wasn't a bad stage adaptation of it, and I think they cast really well for the actors and actresses. I became aware of Sutton through this musical, so that is a plus. I mean, if you've ever looked up anything else that she's sung, she actually can sing the Wicked song that everybody knows, "Defying Gravity."
Mm-hmm.
And she sang that back in 2010 for an audience or whatnot. But in any case, I like I said, I enjoy this. So I enjoy it in its own way, and there are things about it that remind me of the first one. Although I do wish that they could have used the Smash Mouth song in the beginning, like I'm used to, but uh, it was entertaining in its own right. So, Tammy, why don't you bring us into the plot?
Well, if anybody's seen the movies, you know how it goes. This starts out compared to the movies. There's a little bit different because we don't see in the movie really anything about his parents, Shrek's parents, but in this musical you get a little bit, you know, because they are sending poor Shrek on his way at 7 years old.
Right.
Well, during the franchise itself, we do get a little bit about how his father just kept eating his brothers and sisters, if I remember correctly, which is part of the reason why they they sent him on his way. But yeah,
Right, but it's not, you don't really, in the movies, you don't see his parents and like this, you know.
Right. Right.
Nope.
But yep, it starts out that way, and I do find the song they were doing, if you listen to the lyrics, kind of
Oh yeah.
amusing, you know.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
um, but yep, it starts out that way, and that's how Shrek gets, we get to see his swamp and how he ended up with his swamp and wanting to be just alone, and because he realizes when he as a youngster that ogres are not considered um somebody somebody that children want to call friend
Right.
or play with or do things with, you know. His misconceptions of them. Oh, they wanted to play with torches and this and that, and then they would all run away. Well, yeah,
Run
because you're an ogre.
away.
Because you're an ogre, but he did. At first he didn't
And the
realize
song,
that this is all not all in funny games.
Of course,
and the song that is sung here in the beginning is called "Big Bright Beautiful World."
Right. One fun part though is that you see all these scenes of these people that see him and then run away, but then like I guess toward the end where he's kind of gotten used to this and what have you, you see people going by in the foreground, and one of them is a pretty clear stand-in for the Queen Lillian, I think her name was, and there's a little redheaded girl who actually turns and waves at Shrek, and so that was kind of a fun little foreshadowing they did there. I enjoyed it, but yeah.
Yep. So then we get to where he is now an adult Shrek.
Uh-huh.
It's got his swamp and everything. And all of a sudden one day, his swamp is totally infiltrated by all the other characters of what do they call them? The happy ending or
Well, all the
Just
characters that Lord Farquaad just thought were freaks and geeks and
Yeah,
Right,
fairy
they're all from
tales that
stories,
just
though.
didn't
yeah.
Yep.
We got the stalwart characters from the series: Pinocchio, the Three Pigs, the Big Bad Wolf. But you've also got some new ones. You know, there's like an elf and a wicked witch and what have you. That, yeah, mix it up a little.
Right. So in order after confronting all of these characters and realizing how they ended up at his swamp, he Shrek realizes the only way to get rid of them is to go see, Lord Farquaad on his own, or that's how he thinks he's going to get rid of all of them.
Oh
It's like
yeah.
in the movie.
He is not happy that they have trespassed on his swamp,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, well, there's nothing you can do about it. Lord Farquaad has basically banned us from his kingdom, and if we go back, we're going to be executed.
So as he sets out on his quest to go meet up with with Lord Farquaad, he comes across Donkey because the knights or whatever are
He's
chasing
running
him
away. He's running away from the soldiers.
They're after him because he's a donkey that can talk, so he's an abomination. They need to get rid of him.
And this is about when we learn about the ogre's roar.
Mm-hmm.
About what?
About the ogre's roar. When he roars
Yes.
at the soldiers, and the soldiers go.
Yes, we get the ogre's roar. Yeah. And of course, Donkey and Shrek have their, after the soldiers go away, Shrek even does the roar on him, and he's like, "Aren't you afraid? Don't you want to run away?" And Donkey's like, "Well, no, but your breath could chase somebody away."
Right.
And
Look at me. What do you see? That you're really, really green?
I have to say, I think the actor who portrayed Donkey in this was really good, and the interaction on this stage performance between the two actors of Shrek and Donkey, I think these two actors did very good on this, and it was, I think their chemistry made this even more fun to watch as a musical, because I think they did play off each other very good, just like in the movie, itself. I think they got it right with who they chose in this musical to portray these two. Not just the costumes and stuff, but I think, they chose the right people. And so, like the movie, you got annoying Donkey. He convinces Shrek to let him come along with, because he knows how to get there, and and they're off on their adventure, and then you don't see as much of their adventure as you do like in the movie of how they got there,
Right.
But while they're on their adventure, you do see Lord Farquaad having his he gets his special mirror, and the mirror tells him about, if you want to be a king, you have to marry a princess.
Yeah.
And the same thing with, you can this is Princess Snow White. You got Princess
Cinderella.
Cinderella. You got Princess Fiona. And
Of
it's
course,
like,
before that, we have to mention they did include the best moment where he threatens the mirror by having Thelonious punch the hand.
oh yes,
I do like that. We forget that Thelonious is actually a character sometimes.
yes.
And we
But
also
yeah,
get
it's
the whole
kind of
thing
neat.
with him torturing Gingy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Not the buttons. Not the gumdrop buttons.
Yeah, I think that was done pretty good too. But yes, it's done like a game show. Like what was the Bachelor? Like what was that game show?
Is it the
Oh,
dating game?
Bachelor number. The Bachelor.
Bachelor.
Well,
Or
it was gosh, what was it? Actually, it was before that because it was the dating game or
Yeah, that's
something.
what I
Yeah,
yeah,
think
the
it
dating
was.
game.
the date.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because we're talking, what we were talking, they were referencing like
Yeah.
it being
Old
old school.
Old
Yeah.
school, yeah.
Yeah.
and well, it was kind of referenced the same way in the movie too. But
Bachelorette number one.
I bet you the Bachelor scenes. The Bachelor scenes were probably in the bonus features that the Mirror referenced.
But yeah, the actually, I thought the whole way of them doing both Gingerbread Man and the dragon was interesting. How you have the puppeteer dressed up as a fantasy creature on the side or at the bottom, clearly speaking for them, not trying to do any ventriloquism or anything like that. It just they're there, which I understand that's usually the choice that they make, but it's still off-putting to me sometimes.
It was with the woman who played Gingy. It was a little bit off-putting to see her lips clearly moving,
Mhm.
but
at first I thought that too. But I guess it kind of you went along with it because
Those
Right.
three dancing women were the voice of the dragon, her feelings and whatnot. So it kind of involved the audience a little bit more as to what the dragon was thinking.
I think with the
And of
dragon,
course,
it made
those skeletons were supposedly in the belly of the beast.
right. I thought the way they handled the dragon was interesting. I'll give it that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the dragon, and by the way, in the proper version of the Shrek musical behind me,
Uh-huh.
only one person played the dragon. There was no dragon puppet. It's just somebody dressed up in the red costume. That kind of looks like the costumes that they were wearing. So I'll give them that credit, I guess.
I kind of like how they did it in this one. I mean, I thought it is a musical. You don't have the stuff. You don't have the capability like you do in the movie.
Right.
So I thought that I guess I thought it was kind of neat where they went with the Gingy and with the dragon as how they're both portrayed. So
Right.
Yep. And I guess the next scene is where you see the extras have Fiona's the three Fionas singing. I know it's today. That's
Yeah.
the song, and I
And
thought
that
that
was
was an interesting song because then you get
Yeah.
to see her a little bit through the year.
Yeah, I kind of like that one. That was kind of good. We saw, what was it, 7-year-old Fiona, and then there was one I guess was like late teens or something.
Like
And
a
then
teenager.
there was present day Fiona. And yeah, it was and you see, you know, at the end they talk about how many days it's been. The first
Yeah,
one's only been there for a month, basically.
the next one was like 800 and something, and then
Right.
the
The last, I think I saw listed that it was, I think it was IMDb. I saw listed that like it must have been 23 years, I guess, that she had been there. Yeah. So 23 years. So I guess I would make her about 30, which I don't know that her age was ever determined in the movies, but
I don't think they were entirely. You just expected that she would spend a lot of years there.
well, yeah. Yeah. But even so, you kind of think 30 probably makes her kind of old by fairy tale standards. So that
Yeah.
might be playing into the whole idea of it took forever. Yeah. And also, it kind of helps explain the whole idea of the alternate world Fiona becoming a freedom fighter because she just got tired of waiting. Yeah.
Man, I think it's kind of interesting that this the mirror thinks that the only way that you can be a king is if you have a princess to marry, which is technically not the case. All you have to do is storm a castle and be some kind of aggressor towards the people, and there you go. You're a king. You know.
Farquaad seemed like someone who could pull that off.
Yeah. So I guess we're about to the point where
Shrek and Donkey have arrived at Lord Farquaad's residence, right?
okay.
Is that where we are?
Yeah, basically kind of jumped around a little bit, but
Yeah. I liked a lot of the ways that they did the effects in these, like Farquaad's effects with the little legs. The fact that he was on his knees the whole time, that had to have hurt. But then again, I'm old and my knees don't work as well. But
yeah, we were talking about that too. That guy had to be one heck of an actor, you know, to actually do that. You know,
he had to have knees of steel.
Yeah.
Knees with chainmail.
I did love the image of the three Fionas. I think that was really good. And I also think it would have also looked very silly with little Fiona being replaced with a puppet.
Yeah.
I think so too. It's like they would have Wienervilled it. Do you guys remember the show on Nickelodeon called Wienerville?
I remember it a little bit.
but yep, and then they get there, and of course they go into the song about what's the name of the place again?
What? Oh, I think it's Far and Away.
No.
Oh, the castle?
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether they called it a name. All
There
I know
is a name.
Lord Farquaad's castle.
No. The village.
Oh, the village. Duloc.
Yes.
Duloc.
So yes, they go into that musical about that, and
Duloc is a perfect place. Shine your shoes, wipe your face, something like that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We all know that they weren't trying to say wipe your face, but but yes, it's quite amusing. And then of course Farquhar gets doesn't really convince Shrek to go and rescue Fiona. It's more or less, you want your swamp, you go do this type of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
All I need you to do is just pick me up this package.
Right. That was an interesting way of putting it.
Here, talk to what's her name. She'll fill you in on the details.
so yeah. Shrek and Donkey take off to go get Princess Fiona away from the dragon in the castle there.
But first, he's got to convince Donkey to go across a rickety bridge over a boiling thing of water.
Lava.
So.
And then that's when we do meet the dragon, and yes, it's portrayed with three ladies are like are the dragon, because you're getting to hear the dragon's thoughts and everything, and then like David mentioned, the skeletons are the last ones that tried to
Woo the
That's
dragon.
an interesting. It's interesting how they use the skeletons as sort of like extra. What do they call it? Enemies that come about. I think that was kind of a creative thing, a little bit scarier in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, as scary as as it could be, but
Yeah. But while Donkey is apparently wooing the dragon, although we don't really see him wooing her, although he does say something about her teeth and her big eyes.
he gives them the minty fresh comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while he's doing that, he finally climbs the tower, and and he's kind of like, oh God, I had to come across a sleeper, huh? And then of course he shakes her awake, and she gives him that doohickey napkin or whatever the fuck they call those things, a hanky. And of course he wipes it around his neck and underneath his armpit and hands it back to her.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of what he did in the cartoon. But she kind of expects this romantic rescue, so to speak. She's been reading these romantic fairy tales for years and expects her rescuer to be dashing, handsome. The whole rescue is planned in her mind, So she's like, I'm bended knee. And then when you've slayed the dragon on my to-do list. Continue.
Okay.
And so they run from the dragon and the skeletons.
Yeah. So, then it's the three of them are on their way back.
Well, she's thankful and demands he remove his helmet, and he's like, no, I have got helmet hair.
Oh yeah.
And she demands him to remove it and all that jazz. And once she does, she's like, oh my God, you're an ogre. It wasn't supposed to be like this. What were you expecting, Prince Charming? Well, yeah, supposedly.
Yeah.
And then she realizes that the sun is going down, and Shrek's like, no, we're going to go this way. We still have to get you back. I mean, now.
He's like, okay, there's a cave over there. So she's like, okay, bye guys.
Mhm.
And Donkey's like, well, she was nice. Or she seemed nice. But that's when well, while they were on the rickety bridge, that was the traveling song, I believe.
Mhm.
But this next song that comes up is one of my favorites. It's where Donkey asks Shrek, who would he rather be if he wasn't an ogre? And
Right.
it's a very pretty song, you know, once he starts singing it, because Donkey has this whole thing. What do you have against? What do you have against us? Like everything. And he's like, it's not that I have something against people. People have something against me, and you know, they judge him before they get to know him, and that's when he goes into the "Who I'd Be" song, which basically what it comes down to is that he'd rather be a hero, you know, or
Mhm.
something like that. So, but then, of course, the next song and the next scene is the princess waking up, and that's what's called the morning song. That's where we see her blow up the bird, which to me is even funnier on this stage adaptation.
Yeah, that was. And then she, the antlers come off the deer.
Well, yeah, and you can tell that the deer is like a blown up flotation device or thingy. But and this time around, we don't get any Robin Hood and his merry men in this musical, but we do get her playing around with the rats and the piper, the Pied Piper, which evidently he was chasing after his rats, not getting them to be able to follow him. So she told him, you got to learn a different tune. And I guess you get her kind of clogging with them.
Yeah.
And at the end of the clogging with the rats, Shrek and Donkey are kind of looking at her like, what the fuck? You know, kind of thing. Did anyone have anything to say about any of these scenes so far?
No.
Okay. And then, of course, then we get into another song, which I think this is my favorite song. Unless it kind of goes back, I think it kind of goes back and forward with Lord Farquaad scenes too, as well, because Thelonious does tell Lord Farquaad that she's on her way at one point in time, and I'm not sure if it's right around here or not that he does, and he's in a bathtub.
Oh, yeah, he's reminiscing about his own father.
Yeah. Reminiscing about his own father, which later we figure out is evidently one of the Snow White's 7 dwarves. I think it was the angry one. But then it goes back to them, and this is where they basically Shrek and Fiona kind of get into this tiff war about who had it worse. And
I think I got you beat.
I think I got you beat. I think I got you beat. Yeah, yeah. Well, the way that they go at each other, and then suddenly, somewhere in the song, he just starts farting, and the whole entire audience just laughs their ass off it. And when Tammy and I first watched this, I had to bust out laughing.
I did too because
I'm sorry, and the expression on Donkey's face when he did it, and he was like, "Better out there," and then they both like kind of look at him all funny, but then she farts too, and then Donkey's reaction to that is like.
and then they keep doing it back and forth to see who could out
and whether they're belching or burping or whatnot. This is
trying to outdo each other.
Yeah.
And then you see Donkey's reaction to all of it. And it's
no, I almost wish that that Shrek would have done this on the actual movie because that would have been funny as all heck. But the way they took it that way, that was priceless to me. That was.
I thought that
perfection.
was I thought it was one of the better points actually of the musical because it was totally unexpected. I mean, I didn't expect that at all.
And you could tell that both Sutton and Arcee were having a blast singing it and doing it and whatnot. They were great together on stage. I don't know about you guys. What did y'all think about that farting moment?
It was fun. It's like that. I felt like she really was well cast in part because she really seemed to get into kind of the physical aspect of it, kind of the whole, this is not some smooth, polished princess.
Well,
this is someone who's had to entertain herself for 20 some years.
Yeah.
I think that the chemistry was pretty good between them. I mean, starting at the comparing their miseries to one another, and then ending with the farts. I did think that they did a pretty good job, especially since it would have been harder probably to illustrate like blowing up and tying up woodland creatures, except for the bird.
They did do the bird. Actually, they kind of went a little further with a couple of
the chemistry between her and Arcee, and the chemistry between him and Donkey was actually pretty good for on-stage adaptations. There was a moment where he looked into Donkey's eyes, and I would have a hard time not laughing my ass off in his face at some of the remarks that he made to Shrek with all of the guy playing Shrek. I mean, how do you keep a straight face at something that I know I'm laughing my butt off at, you know? But,
I want to see how the guy in the donkey hoodie handled the donkey part.
I'm sure he was laughed off the stage.
Well, then he'd have done it right. He was actually laughed at.
I'm not sure I would have stayed for all of
After
that.
seeing this, I can't imagine what it would have been like to see the one you're talking about. Because
I mean,
it's
shoot.
like,
I sent the picture of Farquaad in that they had.
it just doesn't. Like David was saying when you were describing it, it seems like the Broadway one seemed like it was very low budget compared to this.
I keep hearing the robot from Lost in Space saying, "Does not compute. Does not compute."
Yeah, I still would. I would watch a video of it if I could find one online, just because it does. It's one of those like that's just.
It sounds like shit.
I want to see the Kmart version of.
Well, we used to call Kmart came apart, so I guess.
But anyways,
Okay, so after I think you got me beat.
Then
They end up having to stop again.
right, because it's nighttime and she doesn't want them to know about the curse.
Well, yeah, and it's not because that they were at odds with each other. I think they had actually roasted some food with each other and were enjoying each other's company.
And Donkey picks up on that.
Yeah, Donkey does pick up on that, and he picked up on that in the movies too.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
But Donkey then does go inside wherever she,
Like in the movie.
like in the movie, and talks to her, and realizes that she looks a little bit like an ogre, like in the movie.
Well,
Just
the
a
lines
little bit.
from that one are pretty much the exact same as in the movie, where
Yeah.
he's like, Fiona, did you eat Fiona?
Well, yeah, and Shrek goes through the same ordeal that he hears something different and goes
Right.
off and grabs Lord Farquaad, and it pretty much plays out the same towards the end here, but and ultimately he does actually show back up at the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Am I skipping anything?
Actually, you're skipping the fantasy critters deciding that, you know what, they're going to have to do it for themselves and they're going to stage their own revolution.
Right.
Yes. And I think we kind of skipped the fact that they sang too in the beginning too. They sang a song called "Story that of Our Lives," is what it was called. And
Now this one is basically Pinocchio doing most of the singing, and I think this was a great. I think he did a really good job. Or he did, it was a great song for him, and getting every, and then the rest of them all joined in,
Mm-hmm. Pinocchio
Yes.
became a revolutionary.
He kind of got dragged in to it. A couple of the others were a little more proactive, you might say.
Even the fairy godmother was on the good side this time.
Yeah.
Yes. Which was entirely different.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Pinocchio basically becomes the revolutionary leader of the story book characters. Kind of, if you want to put it down to a regular, thing. But they show up at the wedding too, and I think the dragon does too.
Yes, because Dragon eats Farquhar,
Yeah,
just like in the movie.
just like in the movie. And I guess Daddy showed up to the wedding too. The Daddy Dwarf.
Well, yeah. I had to kick you out. You were 28 years old.
Yeah.
Like Grumpy being his dad was an interesting twist there.
Right.
Especially since Snow White was one of the wives that he could have chosen from, or the princesses that he could have chosen from.
Well, according to the song, this all happened before the whole Snow White incident. So, though it does make sense considering things.
Yeah, it does. So, but then of course, as always, Fiona has a curse, which sometime earlier
Right.
was actually when she transformed the first time on the first night. It basically it told her a curse. By one way, this another, this shall be the norm, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, by day, but what was it? How does that go? By day
One night.
By day one way, by night another. True love's kiss will show my true form or something. Is how it goes. Something like that. So.
By day one day way, by night another. This shall be the norm until those true love's still loves true form, or something like that.
Yeah, and that pretty much comes true here too. And she is transformed into an ogre looking like a woman, and of course that's when Lord Farquaad kind of goes like, "What the this?" He kind of says some French words.
I do have to say something, even because I guess it's a girl thing. I really did like her wedding dress. I thought it was really pretty.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
But yeah, I'm just like in the movie, Varcourt does his little thing or whatever, and then when Shrek and Fiona kiss, there is the whole thing, and then she's like, well, it wasn't supposed to go like this, and because she doesn't understand why she's still the ogre, and then he's telling her that she is beautiful,
Yes, it is.
And then, of course, I do like how they have an after party after everything is said and done. And they're both, I guess Shrek is playing the guitar, and they're doing the "I thought love was only true in fairy tales."
Yep.
And I'm glad that they were able to get to do one Smash Mouth song. Or I know that it was sung by someone else, maybe.
Well, still, it was a good rendition of it.
Yes. So the fact that both of them were able to rock out
and Donkey
at that ending point was pretty great. And then I honestly think that when they do the casting call, that was kind of interesting too, because it seemed like a lot of people loved the role that was played by Farquaad, and he was something else too, because he had the audience participate too a couple of times. So I think that was something good for his acting credibility to be able to do that kind of thing. It was like breaking the fourth wall or something like that,
Right.
Does anybody else have anything they want to add up until this point then? Because we're basically at the end.
All right. Oh. I thought I had something, but I lost it.
Brandon, did you have anything?
I mean, as far as plot is concerned, it's pretty much what you would expect from a Shrek musical. I did think that they had some interesting takes on things. Do I prefer the original stuff? Sure, but then again, I never saw this on stage. So I think, like I say, I still say that my opinion would change if I saw it on stage, because it's just, there is a difference for these types of things, and I feel like you lose something when you don't see it on stage.
Right.
But I think this musical version was pretty true to the movie, and I think that they did. I think they got the right actors. I think they had the right everything, and it was it was. I thought it was really enjoyable. It was a lot of fun. You know, when we first went to watch it, it was just like, okay, and I was like, oh, this was actually pretty good. You know,
Right. The
that was
oh,
not the change. That was another one that we saw an adaptation of, Toxic Avenger. We forgot.
Yeah, we didn't go see it.
No,
We have seen the version of Toxic Avenger the musical
yeah,
in something like this because they did tape it in a movie type form from a stage adaptation of it. So
I will say the as far as and I guess we're probably about ready to go into production, so I'll just go ahead and say this. The scenes with Fiona transformed. That's one thing I really want to know more about the background, because she looks good. Like, it's not a slapdash thing. Like, she's really made up. She looks ogreish. And it's like, I'm wondering how they actually do that on stage, because here we're watching a movie. Well, we're watching a filmed production. We don't really know for sure how much of it is like directly filmed or how much they might have changed for the camera. Like, it looks legit, but it's hard to say. But it's like, especially the big reveal at the end.
Mhm.
well, I do want to say that this was at the Broadway Theater in New York.
Right.
So,
But yeah,
that
Yeah.
this was filmed in front of a live audience.
right. But what I want to say is that like I just said, when you're watching it, you're still taking that on faith.
Yeah.
What I think what Brandon was saying is, like, if you see it, if you're there in the audience, you're gonna have a different reaction than if you're watching a filmed production.
I mean,
But,
we made. I mean, for all I know, they did that entire scene differently when it was on stage.
it's
Whereas this
possible.
one, they could have made like a film edit to pause it and make it go in.
Now, if they did it that way on stage, then that's impressive. And I'm like,
Yes.
you don't have to tell me how you did it. I'm impressed that you did it. You know?
I've
As
seen the
far as-
time lapse of them applying the makeup
Yeah.
for Shrek, not the one behind us.
No, I read that he had to sit through an hour and
Yeah.
a half, something like
So
that.
so she was able to do that much of a makeup job that looks almost as good as his, if not the same, within minutes. That's very impressive.
Actually, less than minutes. Like, I remember, and Brandon, you'll remember this because you were in it. Yeah, I remember in the 15-minute Hamlet, I had to play Claudius and Polonius, which meant there were a couple of scenes where I literally walked behind the stage and came rushing right back out at a different part of the stage as a different character. And that is tricky. But actually disappearing momentarily and coming back in full makeup, that's like next level.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I didn't experience that in 15-minute Hamlet because it was Hamlet, so there were there were very few costume changes. But
I mean, you saw it though.
But I saw you go.
Yeah.
Actually, and when I was in Annie, the previous couple of years, I got to live that as well because I did. Because we had fewer people who were trained vocally for it without the concert choir, so we had to fill in. So I played Bert Healy. That was the biggest part I played, but I also played various background singers and dancers. So I would have to go from scene to scene, switching from like servant clothes for like the house scene where I'm one of the wait staff, to then one of the people in the city for the downtown scene within moments. But still, we had long enough to run in, change, come out. Whereas this, I don't know how they did that because that was like even my quickest costume change wasn't that quick.
Well, I know when
I think
when I had to, I played the steward to one of the princes in Into the Woods, and I know I had to wear black tights over black underwear and wear quite a bit of stage makeup, and I know I had to put on spirit gum for a mustache and wear rouge, and it was different for that.
But could
that
you have
one.
put all that on within a couple of minutes?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. I had a makeup artist who did most of that for me. So
I think
Did I?
it shows on this particular version how professional actually that these people were that put
Right.
this particular one on. And hearing what Brandon was saying about the other one that was actually on Broadway, they just for some reason it just doesn't sound as professional as what they did on this one.
No, that one was not on Broadway. That one was off Broadway, but they charged Broadway prices for it.
So,
Okay.
from what Brandon said, and Brandon, you can tell me if you heard anything that would confirm or disconfirm this. I have a feeling that in that version, they must have had like Fiona turns around, puts a mask on, and then turns back around.
Would not be surprised. I have only seen a few pictures of the whole thing, and I've shared a lot of what I've seen with y'all. It's just,
Right.
I would like to see it just because I want to see how horrible it looks at the end of the day. But I mean, I'm sure that it would be much easier for her to do that than the other one. So,
Right.
I mean, I know I learned a little bit about stage fighting when I was in Seven Brides from Seven Brothers. In order to do that, the person you're hitting would actually put their hand up, like right next to their face, and you'd hit that instead, or have their hand down in their stomach so that you would be hitting their hand ever so lightly, just to get that effect that you're actually trying enough of a slap to make it look like you were hitting them.
oh, I mean, I loved it. I love doing acting in that. I mean, I acted all throughout my high school and college years. I was actually a part of an acting troupe that performed at the Stonewall Theater, and we did various plays written by hometown people through my early college years before I went to Roanoke. And it was fun doing a lot of the stuff that's there. The problem, but I like Jacob said, though, those costume changes. That was epic. But actually, the production as a whole, again, not the one behind us, but the production as a whole for what we saw, it makes me sad that I didn't see this on stage. Because if it was as epic, and from what I've heard, it was almost every bit as epic on stage as it was from what we saw, that would have been something that would have just blown me away on stage. That's what I mean by sometimes being there live enhances these performances way more.
Yeah.
And I really would have loved to have seen it again. Well, not this version of behind us, but I would have loved. Well, actually, no, I would have seen that on the discounted price because for $40 I would have done it, but not for $250.
No.
But I would have paid $250 to see the other one performed live on stage if I had a good seat for it.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a lot. I mean, when I went to the New York Metropolitan Opera and saw God, what was it? Not Rigoletto.
That one
It was there was one scene I remember watching. No, it wasn't that one. It was an opera house in Austria, Vienna, Austria.
Okay.
I remember the effects that they used when they had the man, I think it was Don Giovanni or one of those, where you got to see him descending into hell. And the way that they did those was very impressive.
Right.
No, I haven't seen an opera, but I know I have seen a version, the full version of Romeo and Juliet in a Chicago theater, because evidently they perform the full plays, the ones that they cut down, because Shakespeare was a pervert. He really was, because Mercutio was a hell of a lot more gay on stage.
Well,
No offense. I should probably say alphabet soup.
That probably depends as well on how it's presented.
yeah.
Because there have been so many versions of Shakespeare.
No,
Plus, all the women would have been
full
played by
version of
men on
Shakespeare
stage.
actually has Mercutio hitting on every single actor.
Right.
But I would have liked to see now one that would have been really cool. When we went to London and got to go to the Globe Theater, of course, it wasn't the original Globe that got burned down.
Yeah.
But they built that complete replica of it close to where the original stood. And I got to see where the original was. And you got still pieces of that they're unearthed.
Right.
You can actually see Shakespearean performances on the Globe Theater. And at the Globe Theater as they would have done back in the day, except with better hygiene. But looking at the theater itself, it was really impressive because they built that thing to the exact specifications of the original, and the different trap doors and the different things that you could suspend people from the air. Back then, those plays would have been amazing things to see, especially back in the days when Shakespeare was actually doing stuff. Because, I mean, they actually had that thing like riddled with secret doors, pits. They had this thing called like the heavens and the hells, essentially. The hells being the below, the heavens above. I can imagine what seeing one of those plays real life back then would be. But one of the things I want to do when I go back to London in the future is to see one of those plays performed. I'd have to go during the spring because they don't do them during the winter, but because it's open air. But still, that would be epic.
You ever done a show at Blackfriars? I know that's in your neck of the woods, but
I have not.
yeah, I want to see that one of these days. Anyway.
I mean, they did do something interesting at the Richmond University of Richmond, where they had a performance that was on the TV, but they would move the TVs around so that it felt like you were kind of watching it with actors. It was weird, but it was a weird show thing that they did. So it's kind of half Broadway, half taped.
Now, I guess I will mention, because Dave brought it up, I might as well mention one of the things that I thought was different about this version of Shrek, and that I thought was kind of interesting. I really did feel that Farquaad was a lot more effete in this version. Like they played him a little bit more effeminate, if you will, than he was in the movie. I at least that was my take on it. I almost felt Donkey was kind of like that too. But
yeah, I felt that Donkey was a little bit more of this one.
But and again, I don't mean that in a bad way. It just took some getting used to because it was different than what I was used to. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I felt like Donkey was the almost the gay sidekick character.
Yeah, almost.
Which may or may not be offensive these days, just because that's a trait I would see a lot in the 90s.
That was there were times where I thought he perfectly channeled Eddie Murphy. And then there were times I was like, this does not feel like Eddie Murphy at all. But he made the character his own. But yes. It was kind of like the musical overall had moments that were directly from the movie and moments that were its own thing. That's kind of how the musical overall felt. Like There was dialogue lifted directly from the film. There were scenes that were almost perfectly recreated, at least for part of their run. And then there were things like the fairy tale creature uprising that were entirely new.
Actually, that would have been pretty cool to have in the original film. That would have explained some of like Farquaad's men being taken down.
Right. Now, and I don't remember this. I've seen the movie a few times and it never occurred to me before, but I definitely noticed it in this version. Does anyone remember if the movie had this trait? But definitely here, Farquaad's soldiers, everyone who works for him basically has the Farquaad hairdo. Like they're like carbon copy Farquaads.
Well, the knights were faceless in the cartoon,
right,
because they all had helmets on.
Right. But I thought that was kind of funny. Like I guess the dress code was.
It was interesting that most of the Farquaad soldiers were short too.
Yeah,
especially in the sequence where they were like,
still taller.
Farquaad is on his way. He's
still
almost here.
And the Duloc singers were still taller than him. And again, I don't know if there might be people who might have raised a stink or who would raise a stink today about them casting a normal height actor and having them do the go around on knees thing. But the way they used the legs and everything was pretty funny. Especially the scene of him in the tub and you see those teeny tiny little legs sticking up and it's like, that's...
I think it would have been better than having a real little person play him, because when you're making fun of his height that much, it's probably for the best that you have my full height.
It's probably true. Yes, that's probably true. And they did,
really looks bad. You're picking.
They did keep some of the original lines, and I think they made up a couple new ones.
Yes.
Yeah. They definitely came up with a few new ones. The whole thing about him being Grumpy's kid was interesting.
Yes.
I found that interesting too.
Yeah.
Well, I think the production itself was very good. I mean, they're trying to do this live. You don't have the same things as you have in the movies. So I think how they because we said how they portrayed the dragon. That was interesting and a neat and different take. And then even with Gingy, that was yes, we could see her mouth move and everything, but I don't think it took away from it. I think it just made it more fun.
And also Gingy was huge in this one.
Yes.
Which they probably had to for like the mechanics of the puppet and whatever, but that was interesting.
It wasn't huge later in the Revolution part. It was someone actually holding him as a puppet.
He was still big then because you had to be able to see him from the audience, I guess, too.
Right.
He wasn't as big as
a big pan.
I was going to say, that was a big pan, regardless.
Right.
And yes, I agree with you guys that it was interesting as to how Fiona could transform, on this.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll go with Jacob on that. I mean, it's like, it'd be interesting to know how she did it,
right?
But it was good. I was thoroughly impressed with it. I mean, I thought, like Jacob said too, there were some parts that were totally spot on to the movie,
Mhm.
and there were other parts where they kind of made it their own, But I just thought it was great. I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen a few, like when we were talking about at the beginning of this, we've all seen a few of these type of things, and I think when you're doing it as this, you have to put a few things in there that are not maybe
Right.
exact.
And they also made nods to the other films. Like I already mentioned Lillian's cameo when she walks by with the young Fiona, and we get a Puss cameo, which is great.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing that you have to remember that every stage adaptation has a different director.
Yeah.
And because they have a director, they have to have a creative view as well. So if they change something, it's because they wanted it to be so. So.
Well, it was fun.
But I think the things that they changed were tasteful though, and they made it fun. The whole I had it worse or whatever thing. That was just I think that was one of their best little parts of this.
Well, today's point, anytime it's not so much just different directors applying their vision, it's also just anytime you take on a new medium, you take something that is one way and you move it to a new, there are going to be changes. You have to have changes. Like if you were to legitimately make a movie based on a stage play and you're not just filming a play, by definition, there's going to be a lot of changes, and it goes the same way in reverse, so they definitely had to mix things up. And of course, there's always when you're looking at an established IP, there's always the question of, okay, so how much do we change to make it fresh and interesting for the people who've already seen this? And how much do we have to keep the same before they start complaining that we change too much? It's like, it's a delicate balance. And I think they did a pretty good job here striking the balance,
I don't think you could have said it any better than I could have. So.
I think they did good with the overall scenery and everything too, and the costumes, and
And I think that 3/4 of the music that went with this musical actually went well with it.
Yes.
I mean, there's one or two that didn't strike me as something that I'll replay over and over. But I would have to say that there are at least 4 songs in this musical that I will return to myself because I like it that much. Like while I was in the hospital, guess what I was watching? Yes.
Well, like I said, I don't think there were any that caught me that way on the first time, but I think if I saw this 2 or 3 times, I'd probably be like, you know what? I really like that song, And I don't know, there isn't a soundtrack release for this, is there?
I believe there is.
Is there? Huh.
When they do the Broadway shows, the ones that are having a run, oftentimes they'll be selling an album for the musical,
right?
With it, like I know Into the Woods because it had 2 cast runs. There was one in 2002 that ran as well.
Right.
That had a cast recording CD as well. So I guess it depends upon the musical adaptation and how
wow,
how well
it's not expensive. That's nice.
Sometimes musicals that come out and their original will wait until they actually make some money on the darn thing before they put together a cast recording.
Oh boy. They've got a reprint of the Blu-ray that's $6, and then they've got, I guess, the original run is $160.
Woo!
Woo boy.
Of this same one?
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, apparently, like I said,
I guess I'm glad that mine came in my box set.
wow. Well, I looked to see if there was a cast recording, but I haven't seen it yet. I'm just seeing the actual musical.
Huh.
But,
Well,
okay.
no, you can find the music online. So
Yeah. Huh. Isn't that so? Well, yeah, I guess nowadays it is getting harder and harder to find pressing. Oh no, here we go. They do have it. Yeah. Yep, it is available. So that might be something worth checking out at some point. One musical note. I don't know if anyone else will agree with me on this, but I will admit mild disappointment during the game show section when he includes the original descriptions of the various bachelorettes. And of course, the original description of Fiona shamefully cribbed lines from the Pina Colada song. And then, of course, in the movie, they play a snippet of the song. And I was a little disappointed they didn't do that. I just, I don't know.
well, one thing I liked that the musical did, it kept the princesses in shadow.
Yeah.
So even if the King Farquaad didn't know anything about the princesses, he didn't even know what they looked like either.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I thought that was interesting that they didn't show the faces of the princesses; they just showed the shadows of them.
That's probably a good plan. Yeah.
Whereas in the cartoon or the feature, I believe that we saw the faces of each.
Yeah, we did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we kind of did production and music like all together. Does anybody else have anything to add about the music or the production?
No, not really.
Okay, then I guess we should go into our favorites.
Yeah, favorite scenes and our favorite characters. So let's start with you, Brandon.
Favorite character was the dish and the spoon.
Running away from the cops.
Yeah.
You mean it wasn't the cow?
No.
Wow.
And of course, my favorite scene overall was the traveling scene. I liked all the little cameos and I liked the song. Okay, so I think that was my favorite overall.
Okay. How about you, Jake?
Oh, well, favorite character is Fiona, easily. Like I said, I mean, she's probably my favorite one from the first movie anyway. But again, I just think that the actress just nailed the role, just did a really great job, and made her even more entertaining. The favorite scene. I did enjoy that traveling scene, and like I said, I did enjoy seeing Puss's cameo. Maybe the scene where Fiona is talking about or singing about the prince coming to save her, and you see the different ages and the number of days going up and all that.
I know it's today.
What's up?
The song is called "I Know It's Today."
Right, I know it's today. That one, maybe I don't know. There's a few of them. The scenes the scenes of her getting to know Shrek are really good. The two of them really play off each other well, and so I really enjoyed those scenes. And that opening scene where his parents are singing to him, that was delightfully macabre as well, and I enjoyed that.
Okay.
What about you, Tammy?
Oh, and I guess, and seeing the Duloc scene, the Duloc figurines come to life amused me. I don't know why. That just amused me.
Well, Donkey is my favorite character, but I do have to give kudos to Fiona and Shrek and Pinocchio, because I think the actors that portrayed all of them did very well, and I think those four and Lord Farquhar, they all played off each other very well. But
I'm a real boy. I have a glandular.
Oh yeah, did we mention that he had a functioning nose? Because that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, I really got a kick out of Donkey. I think the actor that was doing him I think he did a really good job, and he was just a lot of fun. I mean, he had the facial expressions and everything. Like I said,
Don't be telling me it's the brimstone.
But
he didn't mention waffles though, did he? That was disappointing.
Nope.
No, he didn't, did he? That would have been great. But he did mention parfaits. Everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And that always makes both of us laugh, because when I was in the hospital, I got hooked on these parfaits that they had at the hospital.
And she still likes them.
So, but my favorite scene is the I had it worse or whatever.
Oh, I think I got you beat.
I think I got you beat. That whole song, and then they go into their little farting thing and everything. That's my favorite scene.
Flatulence.
That whole thing was it was a lot of fun. I liked it.
Flatulence and air coughing.
Okay, David. Ian.
Well, I would have to say that you know what, for this one I actually like both Shrek and Fiona. I actually liked Donkey better in the movies than I liked here, per se. Although when they're actually singing the "I Think I Got You Beat" and they're farting, and you see his response to their farts, that is fucking hilarious. So I think there are times where he did remind me of Eddie Murphy, and then there were times that he
seemed to be on his own.
Yeah, let's put it that way. But at the end of the day, I thought everyone put together performed really well. But yeah, that was one of my favorites. I liked when Shrek sung about the fact that he would have been a hero, and the way he sang it. I actually thought it was pretty cool. It seemed to fit the Shrek character, So, and then I think when the bird blew up, that was entertaining. So there were things throughout that I enjoyed, and I really enjoyed the song "I Know It's Today." Because it showed the different. It showed a little bit about how rough, the princess did have it,
Right.
And I don't know, even if you were even if you were a guy and you had to deal with all those years in one room tower and you could never get down, and it didn't even look like she had a bathroom, you know. So
well, she sung about that, about how she had to clean the chamber pot every day. It's like,
yeah,
yeah,
I'm not sure I would have. How would you clean anything without any added cleaning supplies? You know,
right.
I mean,
Or running water.
you're up in that tower. You're not having anyone give you cleaning supplies every day. So you have to wonder what the heck is she cleaning it with? You know,
Maybe she
and
just
all
hung it
the
up.
tracks that show the tower and the inside of it, you don't see no sink, no toilet, no nothing.
Maybe she just hung it outside the window for the dragon to sterilize or something.
Or maybe she talked to birds that would reach that high and lick the chamber pot or something like that. I don't know.
Ugh.
She secretly has the powers of the princess from Enchanted, like you sing and the so-called vermin comes and does everything.
Who knows? Maybe the skeletons came and took the chamber pot.
Maybe,
and
maybe.
Okay, well, I guess
That's pretty much it. So, why don't we go around the room and tell the audience a little bit about ourselves and what we do? Tammy, who are you and what do you do?
I go on this channel with David and another one and talk about movies with everybody and get their takes and or whether they like things or not, or and it's always a lot of fun because but I'd say about half the time I don't know these movies, so I wouldn't have watched them otherwise, so it makes it interesting. And now it's summertime, so I'm enjoying taking my 72 Grand Prix to car shows.
Okay. Heading over to you, Jake. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Kotobukijake. I am the occasional co-host of SeptumSin versus the World, and we've got a couple of videos in the offing. Actually, recently did a discussion on Adventure Time Season 2, so check that out if you haven't already. And obviously, this being the warm season, I am busy all the time. I do have a 40-hour job. Keeps me busy enough, but I also have a vegetable garden and have to try to maintain the yard, and I can never fully keep up on either of those, especially with all the other things I try to keep going on. There's not enough hours in the day, but do what you can to enjoy them as you can, I guess. And I still try to find some time for viewing, and I have been working with my brother on trying to get caught up on the Marvel stuff, and we're working on Defenders. We're close to finishing Iron Man season, not Iron Man, Iron Fist season 1. Getting there. But and a few other shows here and there, but mostly I just join these folks every week to try and get some interesting viewing in, and every now and then we'll hit one like this that's new to me that I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm glad I saw it. So and that's about all I got for today, I think. Like I said, a lot of projects I'm working on, but not enough time to get them done.
Okay, well, I do believe that. Let's go over to you, Brandon, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I'm SeptumSin, a SeptumSin versus the World. Of course, we love physical media here. Matter of fact, I'm moving the information for our next pickup video that Jake and I are part of right now as we speak from my phone to the computer to edit real quick because I'm realizing I need to get that posted by Wednesday. But of course, we're going to be taking a break from my typical reviews every week to look at my to do some travel vlogging, as the first part of the Euro trip that we do is going to be up. Of course, I am also part of many discussions and so on, but and if you haven't watched our Adventure Time episode that we did for Animation Anticlimax, you should. And of course, as we move into June, we have Dave and I have a shared birthday month.
Yes, we do.
Whereas I'm kind of doing a pre-show for my themed month later in the year in November. But Dave is also doing his own pre-show of sorts. But we'll hear about that when Dave gives us next week's episode.
Yep. So is that pretty much it then?
Yep.
Alrighty. My name is David Strege. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. Thank you for coming along with us on this fantabulous journey. I'm glad that we are entering some new territory with talking about musicals, because they musical to film adaptations are an interesting lot, because not every musical does this type of thing nowadays, but we are actually starting to see some comeback with musicals, like Wicked and films of that, So, in fact, there's. I hope they still come out with a second act to that. I know it's coming. But
It's coming, yeah.
I just wish it wouldn't be so long for the wait.
I still need to watch the first.
Look at how long that we had to wait for the Dune part 2 to Dune. So, in any case, but I do go on another channel where we do similar things, but we do our discussions for Delusions of Grandeur on Sundays, where we try to go on it every week. This last week, we went on about 12 Angry Men, which was pretty cool. I hadn't seen it in a while, so definitely check out the discussion. I thought it was pretty good, and believe we're going on about another film this coming Sunday, which I've got to acquire it yet, but in any case, I think it has something to do with a song that our good friend Boris is obsessed with. I think it's called The Black Veiled Bride, or something like that. I guess it's got something to do with the Lady in Black, so to speak. So looking forward to checking it out. But I do some video pickups and some video reviews from time to time. Brandon and I are trying to put together the final process of the second act of Tales of Tales of the Forgotten. So it'll be awesome to have that put to disc. Just figuring out all the final details, and we'll have you updated with when that'll be available pretty soon too. So like, share, and subscribe. Looking forward to the rest of this month, especially with some of my picks, because I think I'll surprise Jacob on my first choice of the month. After this is I believe one of my choices. So, trying to remember the entire title of The Cook, The Thief. Brandon, do you remember what the title of that one was?
The Cook, the Thief, his wife, and her lover.
Yes. and it's definitely an interesting movie. So Jake, you're going to have to let me know whether you like this one or not, because I think it's up your alley.
This is the 1989 movie.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael Gambon, huh? Helen Mirren, Tim Roth, Karen Hines. Good cast.
Yep, it's an interesting tale. Very odd. So I figured it would be up your alley, and I don't know why I like this one, but I liked it when I saw it the first time. So,
Okay,
but it's kind of if Wes Anderson and good God, who's your other director? Cohen's got together and had a love child to me.
well, apparently Ethan Cohen has a new movie out that people are not fans of. But anyway,
it kind of looks like Asteroid City, to believe it or not. So a lot of it, but whatever. The Phoenician theory, I believe that was called.
what?
The Phoenician experiment, or the Phoenician something or other. I believe that's the name of it.
Of the one I'm talking about?
The Wes Anderson movie.
Oh, no. Oh, the Wes Anderson. That, I think you're right. I don't remember offhand, but that's the Phoenician scheme.
Yeah, there we go. That one looks exactly like his last one, almost, except at least color-wise.
They're doing a Wes Anderson collection from Criterion.
Yeah.
Really?
Which will include French Dispatch, which up until this point I don't think has had a Criterion.
Interesting.
Okay.
Well, in any case, like, share, and subscribe, everyone. And we'll see you next week here on Inside Movies Galore. So everyone say good night.
Good night,
everyone.
Good night.
Inside Movies Galore just makes you just want more. We've had all in the world of media to explore. Horror, anime, or Curious George. Our love of new things was our reward. It is the best night of our week.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.